Hi, it's Paul, and in this video I want to talk about something I don't usually talk about in public, and that is how to use effective communication in your private life, in your romantic life, in your relationship. And this is something that for a business guy like me, I wouldn't think I'd be talking about, but it comes up surprisingly often when I'm doing workshops and events in a corporate setting, particularly if I'm doing a public seminar. On a break, inevitably, somebody will come up to me and ask me a question about communication in their romantic relationship, because let's face it, that's a big part of our life. Life isn't just about business. So today, in honor of Valentine's Day, which is coming up, I'm going to give you some specific agreements that you can use. And I'm going to teach you a technique about how to use safety to radically increase the intimacy in your life. So let's get started. First of all, what is safety? Now, safety is a free and open exchange of ideas. Now, that means, theoretically, I can say anything to you and you can say anything to me and there won't be any pushback. You know what I'm talking about, because we've all got these little landmines that have been laid in our relationships over the years. Unless you've already got safety, there's these spots where you know you don't want to step on that because something's going to happen. Well, safety is no landmines. It's also, each person maintains their own identity while seeking to understand and adapt to the other person. So part of successful communication is not being about yourself, but at the same time, you have to maintain your identity. You don't want to sacrifice who you are completely for somebody else. Maybe just a tiny little bit. You want to maintain who you are, but at the same time, you want to give them what they need, because successful communication isn't about you. So let's dig into this a little bit deeper. Now, here's how the process works. I call it the path to intimacy. First of all, it starts with safety, and I'm going to show you exactly how to get safety in just a few minutes if you'll stick with me. Then that leads to open communication, and finally that leads to intimacy. Because when you can say anything to anybody without fear of retribution, you're going to have intimacy. And then everything will flow from that. This will supercharge your relationship in ways that maybe you haven't had ever since you were first dating. Maybe you didn't even have it then. But if you do what I'm going to show you over the next few minutes, it's going to supercharge your relationship. High safety equals low risk equals high intimacy. So if we've got a lot of safety, we don't have to take a risk. I can say something to you and you can say something to me without fearing what's going to happen when I say it. And that's going to create the intimacy. If you're a digital guy like me, I'm an ex-software guy, owned a software company for 20 years, so I'm very digital. I look at this in terms of a graph. I know some of you will appreciate this. So the more safety there is, the more risk you can take. And there's a point where it really goes exponentially. It's like a lot of things in life. If this was a scale of 1 to 10, when you hit 7 or 8, whammo, things really take off. And so along here, we've got a process of what I'm going to call testing and proving. Now, here's how testing and proving works. So you say something to somebody, or they say something to you. You see what happens. Evaluate the reaction, and that either increases or decreases the amount of safety. So I take a small risk with you. I don't get a bad reaction. I might even get a positive reaction. So I think, okay, that's safe. Let me try something else. And over a period of time, you're going to build the increase the amount of safety. And you're going to build and increase the amount of communication, the amount of intimacy that's going to come from doing that. So this simple little process of testing and proving builds safety and trust, communication and intimacy. Now, the thing about this is this may take a while to build, and I'll tell you what to do if it's already been destroyed. Just stick with me, I'll show you what to do then. But as you're building this may take a long time. You can't rush this. You can't say, I want to get this done tomorrow. It might take you days, weeks, months, or even years to do this, but I guarantee the outcome is worth it. Now, the thing about it is that while it takes a while to build, it can be quickly and easily destroyed by having a bad reaction in here. So maybe you get to a level 5 or 6 of safety and risk, and then all of a sudden you say something and you get this horrible reaction, and you drop back, maybe to level 1 or 2 because, oh, the safety has been destroyed. So it takes a long time to build, and it can be quickly destroyed. So I'm going to encourage you to be really, really careful in your reactions once I show you what to do. So in the download handout that comes with this video, I'm going to give you 10 rules to use, and I'm going to suggest that you and your partner agree on these rules. I'm going to review them with you, then I'm going to show you an implementation process and how to get the download. First of all, I'll treat the other person I would like to be treated. Now, this is an age-old principle all the way back to the Bible, and wherever it comes from, it's extremely valid. Treat them the way you want to be treated. Number 2, you're going to listen with the intent to understand and acknowledge that what they're saying is important to them, whether you think it should be or not. Because we tend to evaluate what the other person's saying through our filters and go, well, that's stupid. Well, even if you think that that's stupid, seek to not think it's stupid. And even if you still think it's stupid, don't say it to them, because that's going to destroy the safety. Number 3, I will always speak calmly and respectfully without profanity or sarcasm. Now, this should go without saying, but this is a big part of destructive communication. It's not the words that you say always. Sometimes it's the voice tones that you, oh, really? Doesn't mean, oh, really, does it? In fact, there's 7 meanings of silence if you just want to study silence. That's a whole nother video. Number 4, I will readily admit my own mistakes, and if you don't think you've made a mistake, I'm going to encourage you. If the other person thinks you have made a mistake, that doesn't mean you have to admit that you did, even if you believe that you didn't. It means you have to really objectively evaluate from their perspective whether you've made a mistake and seek to correct them if possible. Number 5, I'll acknowledge the other person is right from their perspective and seek to understand their perspective, whether I agree with them or not. Everybody's got their own set of filters and view of the world, and that's a whole nother study. But just suffice it to say that 2 people can experience the exact same thing. It comes with 2 completely different interpretations and meanings from that same event. I know you've experienced this. We all have, and that's what I'm talking about here. So if your experience and interpretation is different than theirs, seek to understand theirs. Number 6, you'll be curious, not defensive. Why is he or she reacting that way? That's curiosity. I'll ask questions to clarify if you disagree or if you don't understand. You seek to understand. Number 8, never say anything about the other person to somebody else that you wouldn't say to their face. And this is gossip. This is telling your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your friends something negative about that person that you wouldn't say to them, even if it's true. Because when you verbalize that, that reinforces it in your brain. So I'm going to recommend that you never say anything negative about the other person that you wouldn't say to their face. Number 9, I'll accept that the other person's feelings and emotions are valid for them. Even if I don't think they should be angry, happy, sad, upset, depressed, frustrated, whatever the emotion is, if they've got it, it's valid for them. Now, that doesn't mean that they might not seek to change it someday, but for them, it's valid. And you should never say to somebody, well, you shouldn't feel that way. That's disastrous. That destroys the trust, the safety, and the intimacy with those few words. Never tell them that their emotions are invalid. And number 10, I will seek to understand more than seek to be understood, because when you do that, they'll repeat this process. They will seek to understand you, and you'll create this virtuous cycle where each person is trying to understand the other, and safety is increased and intimacy is increased, and your relationship's going to take off. So let me tell you what to do now if you're already in a pattern where there is no safety. First thing, existing patterns are in place. We've all got them. If you've been in a relationship more than a few hours, you've already established patterns. Probably from the very first few minutes you start to establish these patterns. The first thing you want to do is set your intention. You want to decide and determine and commit that you're going to do these things to improve the relationship, because you can't control what the other person's going to do. You absolutely can't. You think you should, you think they should do this, you think they should do that, but you can't control it. But you can control what you're going to do. So I'm going to encourage you to adopt the 10 agreements, whether they do it or not. Set your intention strong. I've got a video about intention on my website. You'll find it. I think you'll find it very, very useful, because intention can overcome almost anything. Take a risk and talk about it. Now, if you're watching this video and you've gotten to this point in it, you've probably got some serious intention about this. You're really thinking about, how can I improve my relationship? Go ahead, set your intention, take a risk, and talk about it to the other person. Number 4 is set a signal. Now, set a signal is a technique that I don't know where I learned, but I've used it very successfully, and I've taught it to other people. So when you set the 10 agreements, once you've signed them, you're going to assign a signal that if the other person sees you violating or feels that you violated one of them, they can give you a signal to tell you to stop. And it's got to be a nonverbal, because they don't want to interrupt you. Well, they might want to, but they shouldn't interrupt you. So they're going to use a signal, and I use this one, time out, like you use in a football or sports game. Time out, And when you see that, that means they think you violated one of the agreements. You have to stop and consider whether you have or not. If you've launched into an attack because your emotions have got the worst of you and they go like this, you don't ignore that. You have to respond to it. If they think that you're invalidating them and they go like this, you've got to stop and respond to it. So this will stop cycles from beginning, because we've all been in the cycle. I call it the rinse cycle, where one thing causes another and causes another and causes another. This will put a stop to it. Download and sign the agreement. Now, do you have to sign the agreement for it to work? No, you don't. The 10 things will work whether you sign the agreement or not, but there's something very powerful about setting your intention, sitting down, reviewing the agreements, agreeing between yourselves that you're going to do these 10 things, setting a signal, and then signing to it. There's something very powerful about signing the agreement, which signals that you've both agreed to these things, you're both setting the signal, and you're giving the other person permission to use the signal if necessary, but more important, you're committing to the 10 agreements. All right, that's it for this video. I appreciate your joining me. It's a little long and it's not business-like like most of my content, but I'm sure it's going to help you in your relationship, and I look forward to hearing from you as you have some success. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.